the original structures that was built here on West Main. In 1939, the Anthony family, McGree family, and some of the others decided that there wasn't a church here in this community. They could see that it was just, I want to say hundreds, because many families had anywhere from 5 to 12 children per family. And then the homes would not just be here, but that yard behind it used to have another house behind it. And then, of course, every empty lot you see here had homes or multiple homes or duplex homes on these lots. By the time I was 5, 6, my mom used to have many families babysit us because she had 7 children and she worked. So I got to be very familiar with many families, unlike other children, because you stay at home.
Yeah.
You didn't go far from the yard.
Yeah.
You would have the aunt down here, the granny down here, and you may be in a little shotgun house. You may have a family in there, like a good friend of mine, girlfriend of mine, the Strange family. In the shotgun house, remember I told you that you were in?
Yeah.
Because I said, ooh, keep that address plaque
Yeah,
that you found on the house, because that was my friend's home, 249 West Main.
Did you go inside 249 when you were growing up?
Girl, yeah, that was my friend's home.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So what was it? What was the structure like inside before?
It was beautiful and clean. And the church, I just wanted, before I get away from the church, I just wanted you to know that the original structures were actually wooden houses.
What?
1-room wooden houses that sat right here in the center. It was all the way back on the lot, you know, and it was a wooden house. And then after the congregation started to build, they were able to get enough money to build a more sturdier, bigger wooden frame church, which stayed, believe it or not, until this marker in the front in 1963. Believe it or not, that last wooden structure stayed in place because it was brand new. It was bigger. Okay, and you know, it had an office for the pastor. It didn't have a restroom. Now we were still in outdoor restrooms at the back. Now this baby, she's like, if my mom were living, she'd be like a 5th generation from my mother originally coming here to Texas to live here in this community. Because see, this wasn't black from the get-go.
What was it from the get-go?
This was owned by the Cockrell family. Cockrell Hill.
The Cockrell Hill.
The Cockrell. They owned this property through here. And only whites, when they started putting living structures here where families were recorded as living down here. And of course the street had different names. One name we saw was on here was Golden Gate. And there was another name that preceded that. And then, of course, all of this flooded because the levees that are there. But as time went on, and whites who were living here, the Cocker family, and I can't think of the other name, but I'll tell you later, they had homes here, big homes, you know, with 4 bedrooms. It was one of the nicest homes that I knew of on the street because, like I told you, with my mom having so many babies,
you had so many babysitters.
We went in and out of a lot of people's homes, okay? So, and they didn't charge her. Many of them didn't charge her, or they just didn't charge her, you know, because they knew she needed the help. You know, this was a village, you know, like I told you, right behind this white car here was the Seals family. That whole lot, they owned a big home there, and it was like 8 of them, you know. And so people just didn't really charge her. When they did start selling the lots, they had it surveyed and divided them into parcels, and they started selling these lots after World War II because a lot of soldiers were returning home. West Dallas was known, boy, this was a hot time in the old town. Okay, so the property was cheap, and it wasn't all black, you know. a lot of West Dallas that you're familiar with, Eknar, when you go down here to Sylvan and turn and go up to Singleton. When we got to Singleton, when you got on that side of Singleton heading west, white people were on that side. The blacks were predominantly on this end of Sylvan Singleton and on these sides. We were fighting about the cement plant, and we joined up, you know, West Dallas 1 started having liaisons with the Tijuana Democrats, with Lou Lag, right? And one of the stories she told me was that she remembers when the Mexicans were even paid and the white people to move out of the project, because they were going to now start letting black people be able to live in those projects. And I was like, wow, that was interesting to learn. You know, because all I knew all my life was the West Dallas Project was black.
Yeah.
That's all you know. Until you learn the actual history behind, you don't even know that the projects used to be predominantly white and Mexican, and then they finally allotted for some of the black African American community to move in, and then when they were ready to turn it over to them all together, they actually assisted not just the whites but even Hispanic families, she told me, to be able to move and you know, relocate in other places.
What do you think now about the changes that are happening here?
Well, I did a story, I told you, a BC workshop, and we took a picture of the bridge when one of the first runs, you know how they have the annual river runs across the bridge, and then she entitled it Uncertain Future, because even though we got with the planning committee from the city, and they heard our ideas about what we would expect and would like to see, because one of the things I found out in doing my research on DCAD is West Dallas Investments had already come through here and pretty much bought up everything that was vacant on West Main. There were some families prior to that. There were some families prior to that who had come through years ago, and they had bought the properties. Sometimes we don't know where things came from, right?
Yeah.
And why there's these mental and psychological barriers that exist within
it's
a community
generational
of
things
people,
that,
right? And so there have been many that would say that yes, that could very well be, you
generational
know,
trauma.
some effect,
Yeah, for
effect. But yeah, this street, this is my history.